Morning service here at Salt Lake Christian Church. The story that I will be telling to you all is about the missionary David Brainard. David was born in Connecticut in 1718, before this country that we're in even existed. And from a young age, David's life was struck with tragedy. He lost both of his parents before he was even a teenager. And unfortunately, this tragedy led him down a path of rejection in spiritual living in Christ and religion in general. Throughout his teenage years, David really wanted nothing to do with religion or God. He lived a fairly common worldly life for the time. And it wasn't until he was 20 years old, an older man, a mentor figure in his life, gave him some advice to find more mature, better friends, and to give this whole Christianity thing another look. And so, taking his mentor's advice, he ended up finding better friends, more mature and sober friends. And he also tried the Christian living. Throughout this year, when he was 20 years old, throughout the year of his life, he read through the scriptures of the Bible twice. And he attempted to turn his life around on his own merits. However, this year was a very big struggle for him. And despite his attempts, he failed over and over again. And it wasn't until he was 21 years old when God reached out to his heart and revealed the truth of Christ's substitutionary salvation for us, and that we can't do it on our own merits. And recognizing this, he became a Christian and was saved. And with his salvation came a calling. He felt called to bring the gospel message to the Native Americans that lived around him. At the time, most of New England was still untamed territory and wilderness. And he went out into that wilderness to find the Native American tribes and to spread the gospel to them. He worked with the peoples of New York, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey, but mostly the natives from New Jersey. It was his life's work to translate the New Testament into their language so that they could spread it amongst themselves and learn about Christ's salvation for them. One such story of his life goes, there was a new tribe that he hadn't yet reached. And he was told about them by a tribe he had already evangelized. And he went out during winter to go meet this tribe and find them, to preach the gospel to them. And as he was traveling through the wilderness alone, a great storm came upon him. And it began snowing. And snowing a lot. And it became whiteout conditions pretty quickly. And I don't know, for anyone who's ever been in that situation, you can understand, but for those of you who haven't, he wouldn't have been able to see from where I'm standing to the front row of pews. About 5 or 10 feet in front of him would have been blurry. And so he began to get lost in this, as I'm sure you can imagine, traveling through the wilderness. And while he was lost, he began praying. He was a devout man of prayer, as his journal mentions. But he began praying fervently for God to guide him through this storm and to bring him to this untouched tribe that he may preach the gospel to them. And while he was praying, struggling to find his way through this whiteout storm, hunters from that very same tribe he was searching for came upon him. And when they saw him and found him, he introduced himself in their own language. And they had heard of him, but they had not met him. But recognizing his name when he introduced himself, and knowing why he was coming, they brought him to their tribe and safely guided him through that storm. And he was able to meet the rest of the tribe and to preach the gospel to them and evangelize to them. David continued this ministry throughout the remainder of his life. And when he was 28 years old, he became ill with tuberculosis. The last year of his life was also a great struggle for him. He died at the age of 29. He succumbed to tuberculosis. And that last year, however, was a great struggle because he felt as though his work wasn't done and that he wanted to reach more people for Christ. However, God had other plans, as he often does, and he took David home at the age of 29. However, David's story and his life, despite not having the impact he wished it could have while he was alive, his life story became published through his own diary after his death. And this biography was an inspiration to generations of missionaries that came after him over the next 300 years. And David's story still today is inspiring new missionaries to go and spread the gospel. So despite how he felt towards the end of his life, he actually reached thousands of people for Christ. So thank you. Let's bring music.